Oh, good. Yeah, continue your story. Continue on your roll.
Yeah, you were asking me about how much research I did. And I did online quite a bit, which expanded the story. And I thought, this is going great.
Yeah.
I'm finding out a lot more and a lot more detail of what went on. Then, and this is an amazing occurrence, out of the blue, a lady called Ineke van den Hout, who runs a historical society in Waalwijk, Dad's hometown, contacted us and said, we have a historical society, we have a magazine that comes out 3 times a year. We want to do a feature of your dad's story.
Wow.
Are we able to do that? I went, yes, fantastic.
Absolutely. Was that the first that you've ever heard of someone wanting to say anything about it? Or?
Yeah, and how that eventuated, this is an interesting story. There was a journalist called Atte de Jong from Friesland, the northern province of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And he had written a story which he published in a magazine and also did public lectures about this. And he was from a town called Mantgem in Friesland.
I will not even try to pronounce that.
No, I'll do that for you.
Thank you very much. It's not going to happen.
From Mantgem. Now,
Bless
and
you.
his story was he researched the armed robbery of the Mantgem council chambers in late 1944.
Right. Okay.
And he did a story on it.
That story rings a bell.
Yeah. And he found there were 4 people involved from the resistance, from the armed resistance in Friesland, in perpetrating this armed robbery, where they took lots of identity cards, post stamps, and mainly that sort of stuff. That were vital for people who were in hiding, so they could get food.
Absolutely, so they could eat and survive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he did this story, and he had a lot of information on 3 of the 4 perpetrators. And he identified 2 that were subsequently shot by the Germans, and another one. And the 4th one he thought was Henk Van Iersel.
Okay.
And he had the photo of Henk Van Iersel from the archive of the SS, of wanted resistance.
Wow.
And he used that in his expositions in Friesland. And this was only like a year or 2 ago. And he contacted, because he didn't know anything more about Henk Van Iersel, he contacted Waalwijk and Ineke van den Hout's Historical Society to see if she might know any more of Henk Van Iersel.
Wow, so all this investigation's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, while I'm trying to piece together a story of your opa.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's convenient.
Very convenient.
Wildly convenient.
Because then she did research and found Peter Van Iersel in Ballina, my older brother, your uncle, who said, I've had this contact. And I said, well, I'm writing a story about it. So I took it over. And Ineke and I began an email correspondence. She turned out to be an absolute gold mine of information and research. She researched things that I have been able to put in the book. Names. She had photos of places where Opa was hiding, of events.
That makes sense. So that's how you were able to get very specific places and descriptions in the book, because it all read, as unbiased as I possibly can be,
yes.
It all read very, very descriptively. It all read like I felt like I was there. I could see everything very clearly. And yeah, it was very descriptive. So I guess that is a tribute to her research and was able to come across very literally. And
that's absolutely true. What she contributed in her research and what she found out was just astounding. Like, I don't want to give too much away.
Yes,
about the book.
Don't ruin it.
But one of Dad's hiding places was on a lake in Friesland, and he mentions that while he was there was a plane crash of an American B-17 bomber.
Yes.
Well, she researched that and said that was easy because there was only one main one, And there was a lot of information about it. There was a big placard where it happened, and she sent me all this information. She knew the guy that had jumped out of the aeroplane, his name, where he was from in America, all this incredible information. So
yeah,
that helped me, exactly like you say, put it together so that it read as an individual story.
So it all reads as a very, like a fictional story, but it reads as fiction, but it actually happened.
Yes, so good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's very descriptive, and it's very, you can feel like you're in the story. It reads as if it's not real, but it actually happened.
Yeah.
Did it, I don't know how to
Well, I tried as much as possible to put myself in my dad's position.
Yes.
As he may have experienced those things that we know actually happened. And rather than just a chronological sort of stuff, but make it that story of how it develops, how he develops from, being not very much involved, but then becoming more involved, and then having to go to Friesland, and all those little bits of research make it more real.
Absolutely, yeah. Did it give you a better idea of like your dad's character? Because I obviously knew him, a different version to even what you knew him. But it definitely came across, it was live life every day as you would. He was always laughing. He was always, nothing was a bother. Everything was fine. Everything was chill. Yeah. Did it change your perspective of your dad in a way?
Well, it filled in the background as to how he turned out that way.
Yeah.
Because that's also how I experience him. He was so much for people.
Yeah.
So much for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so true of character. And then to know what he had gone through to get to be that person that we knew him as.
It gives that context, and you'd never know that he'd gone through everything that he did. Like he never carried that, as far as I could tell. It didn't. I'm sure it must have weighed on him.
Yes,
a whole lot.
That's right, and I think he does say at times that immediately after the war he suffered from nightmares, terrible, for probably a number of years afterwards, just to try and assimilate what had happened to him, because the occupation progressed, it got more and more nasty, more and more immediate, and it was like a headlong rush.
Yeah.
With no end in sight. You can't do anything but just keep on that treadmill and just hope that you survive.
Exactly, and I kind of get from the perspective of you saying, what that moral dilemma of what should we do, or when it first started coming about, I suppose that would have had that moral dilemma of, do we just wait it out? Will it be over soon? Do we just keep our heads down and not get involved in any way, or do we actually take a stand? And I feel like it was after a little bit they were, okay, this is actually becoming more serious. We actually need to do something. I'm not comfortable enough to just sit down and sit back.
That's a great observation. I think that's absolutely true. And that's what I have tried to put in the book, that progression. They call when the first couple of months of the occupation, some people called it the white bread weeks of occupation.
Right.
Because it wasn't heavy. The Germans were there, and they were taking photographs of themselves sunning and swimming, and it was like, oh no, this is not so bad, and people going, oh, this is not so bad. And then as it just got progressively worse and worse and worse, until absolute fever pitch at the end, So that's exactly how I tried to put it, to give some sort of perspective of how that sort of situation might develop for people.
And I, as a reader of the book, grasped the urgency of it as well. It came from ordinary citizens, I guess. Opar, as you mentioned in the book, started out as a radio transmitter.
That's right.
And used those skills as they could, but they were taking ordinary citizens and giving them antique rifles and sending them out there to defend their country, and they're all standing around going, what do I do now?
Yeah, that was very much a feature, and I hope that comes across in the book as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
The Netherlands were completely unprepared for the Second World War. They knew it was coming. You could tell it was coming. But in the First World War, the Netherlands were able to maintain themselves as a neutral regime.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and I think the powers that be, the military, the armed forces, the government, the royal family sort of thought, well, we'll just do that again. You know?
And
I'm sorry, it didn't happen that way.
They soon realised that they were a bit in over their heads and
turned their tail and ran. Sorry to put it like that.
No, I feel like that's the turning point where people of the Netherlands, many decided, okay, this is our